Can you imagine enjoying yourself at a party full of friends and family only to have the night end in tragedy from deaths and injuries caused by drunk driving? This is a reality and happens more than we think. Hello, I am Sarah Cavaliere, and on behalf of the organization MADD, M-A-D-D, which stands for Mothers Against Drunk Driving, I am here today to appeal for legislation to impose much stronger penalties for drinking and driving offenses in order to eliminate this ugly and deadly social issue and protect Canadians once and for all. Drunk drivers should be treated the same as murderers and receive mandatory jail time for any incident involving drinking and driving, with progressively longer sentences depending on the severity of it. Although drinking and driving is illegal, and there are many campaigns and strategies to increase awarenesses, people still commit this crime every day. Now is the time to ensure that drunk drivers realize that they can no longer get away with driving while under the influence. Severe jail sentences are required since drinking and driving results in deaths, injuries, and the total grief of despair for the family and friends of the victim. Drunk drivers must be treated no different than murderers, since drinking and driving continues to be one of the most frequently committed crimes in Canada. The number of Canadians killed from alcohol-related crashes is shocking and deplorable. According to MADD statistics, there's somewhere between 1,250 and 1,500 impairment-related crash deaths in Canada each year. That is 3 to 4 deaths per day. Drunk driving is like a creeping cancerous disease that must be stopped in order to prevent the deaths of more innocent victims. It is very well known that by all, drinking and driving is illegal and that it can kill, so a person who gets behind the wheel while drunk can easily be compared to a person who grabs a knife with thoughts of killing someone. People who drive drunk should be punished as the potential murderers that they are. Therefore, if a drunk driver kills someone, they should be charged with murder and receive a jail sentence of at least 20 years. Freedom and rights lobbyists may argue that these consequences are too harsh since it is not cold-blooded murder, but we see no difference, and this is the only way to finally force this issue. I beg you to all think of the lives that will be spared if this legislation is approved. We must also crack down and severely punish drunk drivers who needlessly inflict painful injuries on innocent people. Alcohol-related crashes result in a staggering number of horrible injuries. According to MADD statistics, in 2010, approximately 63,821 individuals were injured in impairment-related crashes, roughly 175 Canadians per day. In some cases, the injuries are so horrific that the victim would have preferred death, such as this lady. The emotional and physical scars of injuries caused by drunk driving can last a lifetime. Trauma from the experience can cause psychological problems for the victim that will never get over. Bodily injuries can disable the victim and drastically change their quality of life forever. Alcohol mixed with driving is a deadly concoction that requires more severe penalties in order to eliminate it. If a drunk driver injures someone, they have committed a serious crime comparable to attempted murder and should be sent for jail for between 5 to 15 years, depending on the severity of the injuries. Drunk drivers must learn that they cannot get away with harming others. Would it not be a wonderful feeling to drive on the roads and not have to worry about drunk drivers causing harm? Many of us only think about the victim's deaths or injuries, but what about the effect this has on their loved ones? Death or injury from any alcohol-related crash is a domino effect, since it affects so many others' lives in an instant. Most often, the drunk driver is not harmed from the incident and is able to walk away without much of a punishment, only to commit the same crime again. This is an injustice to the families who were affected, since according to the DUI organization, an encounter with a drunk driver can be just as difficult emotionally as it is financially and physically, if not more so. The loved ones are often left with huge expenses to either take care of the victim's injuries or worse, to pay for a funeral. In some cases, if the victim was the salary earner, the family may have to sell their home and drastically change their ways of living. Families can fall apart and unravel like a ball of string. Think of how terrible it is when children senselessly lose a parent because of a drunk driver, or perhaps even worse, for parents to lose a child. Drunk drivers are monsters that must pay for their selfish actions that ruin so many lives. This is a family that lost their child throughout drunk driving. The malicious act of driving drunk must be more severely punished to compensate for the many lives that are affected when one person is killed or injured. The Canadian federal government needs to approve and pass this tough legislation to enforce much more extreme penalties than there are now in order to eliminate drinking and driving and keep our citizens safe. We cannot allow drunk drivers to continue to kill and injure innocent citizens and ruin the lives of those around them. I'm ending this speech by asking each and every one of you a simple question to think about. Could you live with yourself if a loved one, such as your child, was killed by a drunk driver and you had every opportunity to prevent it by approving this legislation today? I think not. Thank you, Sarah Cavaliere.